John Mercer stood at the viewport of Earth Orbital Station Alpha, watching as workers in spacesuits moved around the massive hull of the U.S. Avalon. Even from this distance, the battleship looked impressive. It stretched nearly a mile long, its dark metal surface broken by weapon ports and sensor arrays. This was humanity's answer to a dangerous universe. Quite a sight, isn't she? Admiral Susan Ford joined him at the viewport. Her uniform was crisp, her gray hair pulled back tightly. "Never thought I'd see anything like it," John said. "When I joined the Navy 20 years ago, our biggest concerns were on Earth. Now we're building warships to fight aliens." Susan smiled slightly. "Not to fight them, hopefully. To make them think twice about fighting us." 3 years ago, humanity had discovered they weren't alone. A probe sent to Alpha Centauri had detected radio signals. Within months, Earth's best scientists had broken the alien code. They learned of at least 12 different species spread across nearby star systems. Most seemed peaceful or at least not immediately hostile. But one group stood out: the Draconians. The latest intelligence report. Susan handed John a tablet. The Draconians have conquered 2 more systems in the last month. Their ambassador to the Galactic Council continues to argue that younger species like humans have no rights worth respecting. John scrolled through the report. The Draconians were reptilian, evolved from apex predators on their homeworld. Their society valued strength above all else. They saw Earth as a rich planet with resources to take, defended by a species too young to deserve respect. "That's why the Avalon exists," Susan continued. "We need to show them that humans aren't easy prey." John nodded. "And I'm guessing that's why I'm here. You didn't invite me to this station just to admire the view. The President has approved your promotion to captain. The Avalon will be yours to command." John felt his heart rate increase. "There are better candidates." "There are safer candidates," Susan corrected. "Officers who follow orders without question. But the Avalon needs someone who can make hard decisions billions of miles from home. Someone who understands that our goal is peace through strength, not war for its own sake." John turned back to the viewport. 3,000 crew members. The best Earth has to offer. Scientists, engineers, soldiers. Your executive officer will be Lisa Reeves. I believe you worked with her on the Mars defense platform. She's good, skeptical of authority, but in the right ways. Susan handed him another tablet. "Your orders. The Avalon will make diplomatic visits to 3 friendly species, then patrol the border of Draconian space. Show the flag without direct provocation." John took the tablet. "And the jump drive. Is it stable?" "As stable as experimental technology can be. Paul Martinez will be your chief engineer. He helped design it." The jump drive was humanity's secret weapon. Most alien species used conventional propulsion that took months or years to travel between stars. The jump drive could cross those same distances in moments, if it worked properly. "When do we leave?" 1 week. Enough time for you to review crew files and familiarize yourself with the ship. John looked at his new command once more. The Avalon represented the greatest achievement in human history, and possibly the greatest risk. If the jump drive failed in deep space, 3,000 people would be lost forever. If the Draconians saw the ship as a threat rather than a deterrent, it could start a war humanity couldn't win. "I won't let you down," John said. Susan placed a hand on his shoulder. "This isn't about me, John. It's about all of us. The Avalon isn't just a battleship. It's a message to the galaxy. Humanity has arrived, and we won't be bullied or conquered." John nodded. In 7 days, he would take command of the most powerful vessel humans had ever built, and guide it into an uncertain future. The fate of Earth might depend on what happened next. The launch day arrived with clear skies over the Pacific Ocean. Crowds gathered on beaches and boats to watch humanity's greatest achievement take flight. News drones circled the area, broadcasting to billions of viewers worldwide. Lisa Reeves stood on the bridge of the U.S. Avalon, watching the final preparations through the main view screen. As executive officer, She had spent the last week memorizing every inch of the massive ship and meeting key personnel. "Nervous?" Captain John Mercer asked as he joined her. "Should I be?" she replied, keeping her voice steady despite the doubt in her stomach. John smiled. "I'd be worried if you weren't. 3,000 lives. The most advanced technology ever built. Our first real step into the galaxy. When you put it that way, I'm terrified." Lisa checked her tablet. "All departments report ready, Captain. Engineering stands by for main engine start." John took his command chair at the center of the bridge. Around them, crew members monitored their stations with focused attention. The bridge design was inspired by naval vessels of old, but filled with technology that would have seemed like magic just decades ago. "Open shipwide channel," John ordered. When the communications officer nodded, he continued, "This is Captain Mercer. Today we carry the hopes and dreams of Earth beyond our solar system. Each of you was chosen because you're the best at what you do. Remember your training. Trust your teammates. Make Earth proud. Mercer out." He nodded to Lisa. "Begin launch sequence." The Avalon rose slowly at first, its massive anti-gravity systems fighting Earth's pull. As it cleared the water, the pace quickened. Within minutes, the battleship broke through clouds and continued upward, leaving a trail of displaced air behind it. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Paul Martinez monitored the power systems with intense focus. Unlike conventional spacecraft that used chemical rockets, the Avalon ran on fusion reactors that powered its gravity drives. But the real miracle was the experimental jump drive. "Power levels stable," one of his engineers reported. "Main reactor at 40% capacity and holding." Paul nodded. "Keep an eye on the coolant pressure. If it spikes, even a little, I want to know." As Earth shrank behind them, the mood on the bridge shifted from tension to excitement. They passed the moon in hours rather than days, the massive engines pushing them faster than any human vessel had traveled before. 3 days later, they reached the edge of the solar system. It was time for the first real test. "All stations, prepare for jump drive activation," Captain Mercer announced. "Our target is the Alpha Centauri monitoring post. If successful, this will be the first faster-than-light human travel in history." In engineering, Paul watched the jump drive power up. The technology was based partly on theories developed by human scientists and partly on fragments of information gathered from alien communications. No one was completely sure it would work. "Jump drive at full capacity," Paul reported over the comm. "Ready when you are, Captain." On the bridge, John looked at Lisa. "Last chance to voice any concerns, Executive Officer." Lisa thought about the risks. If the jump failed, they might be scattered across space as individual atoms. If it worked, humanity would have leapfrogged centuries of technological development. "The crew is ready, Captain. Let's make history." John nodded and pressed the comm. "All hands, secure for jump. Engineering, activate jump sequence." The stars on the view screen seemed to stretch. A strange humming vibrated through the ship. In engineering, Paul watched power levels climb far beyond expected parameters. "Something's wrong," he shouted. "The field is unstable." Before anyone could react, the Avalon vanished from the edge of Earth's solar system. The planned jump to Alpha Centauri never happened. Instead, the ship rematerialized in unknown space, its systems temporarily offline. As emergency power restored the view screen, the bridge crew stared in stunned silence. Before them, dozens of alien ships were locked in combat, energy weapons and explosions lighting up the darkness of space. The Avalon had jumped into the middle of a war. "Where are we?" Lisa whispered. John's reply was grim. "Not where we're supposed to be." Alarms blared across the Avalon as the crew rushed to battle stations. On the view screen, the space battle raged on. Smaller ships darted between larger vessels, weapons fire lighting up the darkness. "Damage report," Captain Mercer ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Minor systems damage only. Lisa replied after checking her console. The jump drive is offline. Paul says it will take at least 12 hours to reset. John studied the battle before them. Two distinct fleets were fighting. The larger ships were dark green with sharp angles, firing relentlessly at a group of silver, rounded vessels. The silver ships were clearly losing, several already drifting as burning wrecks. "Can we identify either side?" John asked. Communications Officer Eric Jackson shook his head. "Nothing matches our database, Captain. But the silver ships are broadcasting distress signals. Our translation software is working on it now." "Sir," called Tactical Officer Ryan Peterson, "one of the green vessels has changed course. They're heading straight for us." John made his decision quickly. "Raise shields. Power up weapons systems that hold fire. We don't know who's who yet." The approaching green ship was roughly half the size of the Avalon, but bristling with weapon ports. It fired a series of energy blasts that shook the human battleship. "Shields holding at 90%, Ryan reported. "Their weapons are powerful, but nothing we can't handle." "Return fire," John ordered. "Target their weapon systems only." Warning shots. The Avalon's main guns fired for the first time outside of testing. Beams of concentrated energy struck the green ship with surgical precision, disabling its forward weapons. The effect on the battlefield was immediate. Both alien fleets paused their fighting, as if shocked by the newcomers' firepower. "Captain," Eric called out, "we've translated part of the distress signal. The silver ships are calling themselves Nelvarans. They're asking for help against something called the Draconian Empire." A chill went through the bridge. The Draconians, the same species that Earth feared, were here, and the Avalon had just fired on one of their ships. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "the Nelvarans have a refugee ship trying to escape. 3 Draconian cruisers are pursuing it." John watched the small silver vessel desperately weaving through the battlefield, carrying what had to be civilians. The 3 green ships fired continuously, slowly wearing down its shields. "Intercept course," John ordered. "Full speed." The Avalon moved with surprising grace for its size, positioning itself between the refugee ship and its pursuers. The Draconian vessels fired again, this time focusing all their weapons on the human battleship. "Shields at 70%, Ryan reported. "They're hitting us with everything they have." John nodded. "Target all 3 ships. Full weapons release." The Avalon unleashed its arsenal. Multiple energy beams struck each Draconian vessel simultaneously, cutting through their shields and hulls with ease. Within seconds, all 3 cruisers were disabled, their engines dead and weapons offline. "The refugee ship is hailing us," Eric said. A moment later, the view screen showed the interior of the Nelvaran vessel. The aliens were surprisingly human-like, with pale blue skin and white hair. The one in the center wore what appeared to be a uniform. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in halting English, the translation software working to convert their language. "You saved our people. Who are you?" John stood tall. "I am Captain John Mercer of the U.S. Avalon, representing Earth and humanity. We came here by accident, but I couldn't stand by and watch civilians be attacked." The Nelvaran commander's eyes widened. "Humans, we have heard stories but never met your kind. I am Commander Varen. Thanks to you, 2,000 of our people will live another day." The remaining Draconian ships were regrouping, clearly reassessing this new threat. "They will return with more ships," Varen warned. "You should leave while you can." John looked at his crew, then back at the Nelvaran. "Our jump drive is damaged. We can't leave yet, and I won't abandon people who need help." Varen studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Then follow us to our homeworld. Perhaps together we can stand against the Draconians." As the Avalon fell into formation with the remaining Nelvaran ships, John couldn't help but wonder what Earth would think of their first contact. They had come to display humanity's strength. Instead, they had joined a war. The Nelvaran homeworld was a blue-green planet with 3 small moons. The Avalon entered orbit alongside the remaining Nelvaran ships, its size dwarfing even their largest vessels. From the bridge, John could see cities glowing on the night side of the planet. "Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions," Eric reported. "Not just from the Neltherans. 6 other species are requesting to speak with us." "Word travels fast," Lisa commented. "Apparently, news of a mysterious battleship that can defeat Draconian cruisers is big news," John replied. "Open a channel to Commander Varen first." Varen appeared on screen, looking tired but grateful. "Captain Mercer, our council wishes to meet with you, but you should know that representatives from our allies are already arriving. Your appearance has caused quite a stir." John nodded. "We'll send a shuttle down. Who exactly wants to meet us?" "Leaders from 7 systems that the Draconians have threatened. For years, the Galactic Council ignored our warnings about Draconian expansion. They saw us as minor powers not worth protecting." Varen's expression hardened. Perhaps now they will listen. 2 hours later, John led a small team to the planet's surface. Ambassador Kate Summers, the only diplomat aboard the Avalon, stood beside him as they entered the grand meeting hall. 6 different alien species sat around a large table, each more strange than the last. "Captain John Mercer of Earth," Varen announced. "The human who stood against 3 Draconian cruisers to save our people." A tall, thin alien with 4 arms stood. "I am High Minister Zorn of the Palaxian Confederation. For 2 years, the Draconians have taken our outer colonies. The Galactic Council did nothing. Tell us, Captain, does your Earth have more ships like yours?" Before John could answer, a reptilian alien that reminded him of a gecko spoke up. "Don't be naive, Zorn. If they had a fleet of such vessels, they wouldn't need to hide their existence until now. This is clearly their first and only battleship." Kate stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Summers. Earth is new to interstellar politics, but we know the Draconians pose a threat to all free species. We may have only one Avalon, but we have the technology and determination to build more." In the back of the room, Security Chief Olivia Daniels watched the proceedings with a careful eye. Something felt wrong. One of the alien aides kept touching a device on their wrist whenever humans spoke. She discreetly scanned the room with her tablet and detected an unusual transmission. Outside the meeting hall, she contacted the ship. "This is Daniels. I need a trace on a signal coming from inside the council chamber. I think someone is sending our conversation directly to the Draconians." Meanwhile, in the council chamber, the aliens debated forming an alliance against their common enemy. "The Draconians respect only strength," said a blue-skinned female with gills. "For the first time, they have seen someone stronger. This changes everything." Varen nodded. "Our scientists have studied the Avalon's capabilities from sensor data. Its jump drive technology is centuries ahead of anything in known space. With such technology shared among us, we could finally stand against the Draconian Empire." John exchanged glances with Kate. The jump drive was Earth's greatest advantage, but it was also experimental and dangerous. "We're willing to discuss technology exchange," John said carefully, "but first we need to establish formal diplomatic relations." The meeting was interrupted when Olivia entered and whispered urgently to John. His expression darkened. "It seems we have a spy among us," he announced to the room. "Someone has been transmitting our entire conversation to a Draconian frequency." The council erupted in accusations and denials. In the chaos, a small aide bolted for the door, but was quickly tackled by Olivia. "The Draconians now know about Earth, the Avalon, and our potential alliance," John said grimly. "We've lost the element of surprise." Varen stood tall among the worried aliens. "Perhaps that's for the best. Let them know that they no longer face divided, weak opponents. Let them know that humanity's battleship has arrived, and with it, a new hope for freedom in this galaxy." The aliens cheered, but John's mind was already racing ahead. The Draconians wouldn't take this challenge lightly. Their response would be swift and merciless. The real war was just beginning. The news spread quickly across the stars. Humans had arrived on the galactic stage, and their first action had been to challenge the mighty Draconian Empire. On the Draconian throne world, Emperor Vexnar slammed his clawed fist on the war table. "Find this human vessel and destroy it," he hissed to his generals. "I want the head of this Captain Mercer displayed in our victory hall." The Draconian High Command dispatched their elite battle fleet, 12 heavy cruisers and their flagship, the Devastator. Their orders were simple: eliminate the human threat before more species joined their alliance. Back on the Nelvaran homeworld, the Avalon's crew worked around the clock. Engineer Paul Martinez collaborated with Nelvaran scientists to repair the jump drive and integrate some of their technology with human systems. "Their shield generators are more advanced than ours," Paul explained to Captain Mercer in the engineering bay. "If we can successfully integrate them with our power grid, we could increase shield strength by 30%. John nodded. "Do it. I have a feeling we'll need every advantage we can get." On the bridge, Tactical Officer Ryan Peterson studied Draconian battle tactics from data provided by their new allies. The Reptilian Empire relied on overwhelming force and rigid formations. They had never needed to adapt until now. "Their ships are powerful but predictable," Ryan told Lisa as they reviewed battle footage. "They're used to enemies that retreat. They don't know how to handle someone who stands and fights." Lisa smiled. "Then let's show them something new." The alliance grew stronger each day. 7 species pledged ships and resources to the cause. The Avalon became their flagship, not just because of its firepower, but because of what it represented: hope against a seemingly unstoppable enemy. 5 days after their arrival, sensors detected the approaching Draconian fleet. "They're not being subtle," Olivia noted during the command briefing. 13 ships on direct approach. They want us to know they're coming." John studied the tactical display. "They expect us to wait here and defend the planet. That's what they're prepared for." "So we don't do what they expect," Lisa suggested. John smiled. "Exactly. Prepare the Avalon for immediate departure. We're going to take the fight to them." The plan was daring. While the Allied ships protected the Nelvaran homeworld, the Avalon would leave a smaller strike force against a key Draconian supply base. Cut off their resources, and even the mighty Draconian fleet would be vulnerable. The mission began at dawn. The Avalon, accompanied by 4 fast Palaxian strike ships, jumped into Draconian space. They emerged near a massive space station that served as the Empire's main fuel and weapons depot. "Draconian vessels responding," Ryan reported as alarms sounded across the station. 4 patrol ships moving to intercept. "Target their engines only," John ordered. "We want them disabled, not destroyed." The Avalon's weapons fired with surgical precision. Within minutes, all 4 patrol ships drifted helplessly in space. The Palaxian vessels moved in next, deploying boarding teams onto the station. The plan wasn't to destroy the supply base, but to capture it intact. This was a resource the Alliance desperately needed. In his quarters aboard the Devastator, Draconian Fleet Admiral Tragnar received the emergency transmission. The humans had outmaneuvered them completely. While the bulk of the Draconian fleet approached the Nelvaran homeworld, the Avalon had struck at their supply lines. "Change course," Tragnar ordered, fury in his voice. "All ships, maximum speed to the supply base." But by the time the Draconian fleet arrived, the station was firmly under Alliance control. The Avalon and its escort had already jumped away, leaving behind a message broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain John Mercer of the U.S. Avalon. To the Draconian Empire, your days of unchallenged conquest are over. Every world you threaten, every species you oppress, now has an ally. You wanted war. Now you have it." Across the galaxy, the message was received with shock and hope. Species that had cowered before the Draconians began to whisper a new phrase: "Humanity's battleship has arrived." On board the Devastator, Admiral Tragnar made a vow. The humans would pay for their insolence. The next battle would end differently. The hunt had begun. 2 weeks passed. The Alliance grew stronger with each day. Ships from 7 different species now moved together in coordinated defense patterns. On the Avalon's bridge, Captain Mercer watched the tactical display with pride. What had begun as a desperate stand was becoming a real fighting force. "Captain," Eric called from communications, "emergency signal from New Hope Station. They're under attack." New Hope was a trading hub that had recently joined the Alliance. Located at the intersection of 3 major trade routes, it was home to over 50,000 civilians from dozens of species. "Draconian ships?" John asked. "Yes, sir. The Devastator and its battle group. They're demanding immediate surrender." John's jaw tightened. This was a direct challenge. The Draconians had deliberately chosen a civilian target that had publicly allied with humans. If the Alliance failed to defend it, others would quickly abandon their cause. "All Alliance vessels, prepare for jump," John ordered. "Our destination is New Hope Station." Lisa looked concerned. "Sir, Alliance intelligence puts the Draconian force at 16 ships, including their flagship. We have only 5 vessels ready for combat." "Then we'll be outnumbered," John said simply. "Inform Medical Officer Grace Williams to prepare for casualties. This won't be an easy fight." The Avalon led the small fleet through the jump. They emerged near New Hope Station to find it already under bombardment. Draconian cruisers circled the civilian habitat, their weapons slowly wearing down its shields. "All Alliance ships, defensive formation," John ordered. "Protect the station at all costs." The battle began immediately. The Draconian fleet turned toward the newcomers, weapons blazing. Although outnumbered, the Alliance ships fought with coordination and courage. The Avalon took the brunt of the attack, its improved shields glowing under the assault. In the medical bay, Grace and her team worked frantically as injured crew members arrived. An explosion had damaged Deck 7, causing multiple casualties. "Keep pressure on that wound," Grace instructed a nurse as she moved to the next patient. "Engineering, we need power restored to the surgical unit now." On the bridge, Ryan reported grim news. "Shields at 30%, Captain. 2 of our escort ships have taken heavy damage." John studied the tactical display. The Draconian ships maintained a tight, disciplined formation. Their standard approach. They relied on their numbers and firepower, never expecting to face a serious challenge. "There has to be a way to turn their formation against them," John muttered. Then he saw it. A possibility. Risky, but possible. "Navigator Alan Cooper, I need a series of micro-jumps plotted. Can the jump drive handle 5 jumps in rapid succession?" Alan looked surprised but checked his console. "The drive can handle it, but the calculations would need to be perfect. One mistake, and we could materialize inside a Draconian ship or the station itself." "Do it," John ordered. "Program 5 jumps that will place us at these coordinates in sequence." He transferred the data from his console. Alan's eyes widened as he understood the plan. "That's incredibly risky, sir. So does losing this battle. Make it happen." The Avalon disengaged from the main fight, pulling back just enough to prepare for the jump sequence. The Draconians, sensing weakness, tightened their formation to deliver a finishing blow. "Jump sequence ready," Alan reported. "On your command." John took a deep breath. "Execute." The Avalon vanished from its position and reappeared directly in the center of the Draconian formation. Before they could react, it jumped again, appearing behind 2 cruisers. Its weapons fired, disabling both ships instantly. Then it jumped a 3rd time, emerging beside the massive Devastator itself. The Draconian flagship turned its weapons on the Avalon, but the human vessel jumped again before they could fire. The Devastator's weapons discharged into empty space and hit 2 of its own cruisers instead. Confusion spread through the Draconian fleet as the Avalon continued its micro-jumps, appearing and disappearing around their formation. Their tight grouping, once a strength, became a liability as they struggled to target the human ship without hitting their own vessels. From the New Hope Station, Civilians watched in awe as a single human battleship systematically dismantled the dreaded Draconian fleet. It was something no one had ever seen before, or thought possible. After the fifth jump, the Avalon reappeared alongside the Alliance ships, its weapons still at full power. Draconian vessels breaking formation, Ryan reported with barely contained excitement. 3 ships are retreating, including the Devastator. A cheer went up on the bridge. Against all odds, they had won the Battle of New Hope. News of the Battle of New Hope spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had lived in fear of the Draconians for generations now whispered of hope. The Avalon had become more than just a battleship. It was a symbol of resistance. In the weeks that followed, dozens of worlds joined the Alliance. Ships arrived daily, ready to fight alongside the humans and their allies. But Captain John Mercer knew the war was far from over. The Draconians are rebuilding their fleet, he explained during a strategy meeting aboard the Avalon. According to our intelligence, they've recalled ships from all their territories. They're planning something big. Lisa studied the star maps. They're vulnerable now. Many of their conquered worlds have minimal defenses since they've pulled back their ships. John nodded, which gives us an opportunity. We can free those worlds, or we can strike directly at the Draconian homeworld. The Alliance leaders debated fiercely. Some wanted to gradually reclaim territory. Others argued for a decisive blow against the heart of the Empire. In the end, John made the final decision. We take the fight to them, end this war with one decisive battle. The plan was set. The Alliance fleet, now 40 ships strong with the Avalon in the lead, would jump directly to the Draconian throne world. It was a gamble, but after the victory at New Hope, the Alliance had momentum on their side. The night before the mission, John stood alone in the Avalon's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Lisa found him there, lost in thought. "Second thoughts?" she asked quietly. "Just thinking about how far we've come," he replied. "We left Earth to show the flag, to deter conflict. Now we're leading an interstellar alliance into the biggest space battle in history." Having doubts about tomorrow, John shook his head. "No, the Draconians won't stop until they're forced to. Tomorrow we offer them a choice, peace or defeat." The next morning, the Alliance fleet assembled. Each ship had been upgraded with technology shared among the species. Together, they represented a force unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. "All ships report ready, Captain," Ryan announced. John took a deep breath. Begin jump sequence. The Alliance fleet vanished from friendly space and emerged in orbit around the Draconian throne world. A massive planet with sprawling cities and orbital defenses awaited them. So did the rebuilt Draconian fleet. "They were expecting us," Lisa said grimly. The Draconian ships moved to engage immediately. The space above their homeworld erupted in weapons fire as the two fleets clashed. Despite being improved and expanded, the Alliance ships found themselves hard-pressed against the desperate defenders. On the bridge of the Avalon, John watched as damage reports came in from across the fleet. This was turning into a battle of attrition they couldn't win. "Paul," he called to engineering, "is the jump drive at full capacity?" "Yes, Captain," came the reply. "What are you planning?" John looked at Navigator Allen. "Can you put us directly over the Draconian capital city, inside their atmosphere?" Allen's eyes widened. "That's never been done before. The calculations would need to be perfect, but yes, it's possible." "Do it." The Avalon broke off from the main battle and vanished. Moments later, it reappeared hovering directly above the Draconian capital, a massive warship from another world, suspended impossibly in their sky. The sight sent panic through the city below. John opened a channel to the Draconian leadership. "This is Captain John Mercer of the U.S. Avalon. Your fleet cannot protect you. Your cities are within our reach. This war ends today, either with peace or with your destruction. The choice is yours." For long minutes, there was no response. Then, a signal came through from Emperor Vexnar himself. "We will discuss terms. The draconian ruler hissed reluctantly. 3 days later, the peace treaty was signed. The Draconian Empire would withdraw from all conquered territories and recognize the independence of all sentient species. The alliance would help rebuild worlds damaged by war. As John watched the signing ceremony, he thought about Earth, now months and light years away. They had set out to show the galaxy that humans were a force to be respected. They had ended up becoming protectors of freedom for countless beings. The Avalon would return home eventually, carrying tales of their unexpected journey. But they would also carry a message. In a vast and sometimes hostile universe, humanity had found its place, not as conquerors, but as champions of justice.